live. Hey guys, we are live here. No, we're not live. I'm used to being live.
We're physically located though.
Wow,
I am alive.
What is live?
I am
right?
here right now.
Can we start with that? What is live, guys?
In this era.
Live is life. Isn't that a song by Opus? We could use that as the intro music.
No, we ask you. So
It could drown out all this crappy banter that we have going on.
exactly. Let's name this podcast "Craig Banter."
Talking about auto-tune.
We are in. I hate to say, love to say the best because it is number one on my list. Jeff didn't make a list this year.
No, but I concurred with your list.
But you concurred with all 10?
You validated
with
it.
all 10?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Jeff and I are beyond fans of the place that we're sitting in right now, and we can't get enough of this place. And we've been bugging for podcast time, and they've been saying no, we're too popular, and people, the lines out the door.
It's
and
the first
stuff
time
like
we've ever
that.
been able to say that in our lives.
Finally, we did it. Jeff and I are sitting here with Dane, Nielsen, and Dagan Migirditch of Liar's Bench. Guys,
Howdy.
welcome.
What's happening?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for
Thank you for
having
yeah,
us.
thanks for the kind words too.
You, and you know you guys are very special if I introduce you before Jeff Lee.
That's true.
What's going on, Jeff?
Actually,
not
that was
even gonna-
part of our rider, really.
Yeah. Introduce us before the co-host.
That and the green M&Ms hidden somewhere. Well, we
Absolutely,
did bring
yeah.
you brownies.
I
though.
count-
Bring us brownies. We're going to see what those
Counted
do
them
in
all
about
up.
40 minutes.
Jeff Lee, what's up?
Not much.
This is the third podcast in 24 hours we've done.
It is.
And
It is.
Wow.
I still I don't hate you.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, 24 hours is rough. That's like a reality show. Is two podcasters in a house
Drinking beer.
just podcasting and no one listening. Never mind. We are here on a nice warmish day. I'm hoping
yeah.
Bockfest takes
Oh, God,
takes
please.
Is warmer
Takes
than
a turn
last
for the
year.
worse.
Yeah. No. It's not supposed to.
The beer won't be freezing this year, we hope.
But what are we drinking? I got the no dice Pilsner.
Same on my frontier.
What do you got?
I'm also on a no dice right now.
You look like you don't have the same.
You have good eyes, keen eyes. No, this is our porter. How meow.
Nice. I'm studying for my BJCP, and I'm only on the site right now. I got to go to the rest.
Your SRM is dialed.
Nail, yeah. Is that a 40? We're like, yeah. Awesome. So we, again, we're big fans of the brewery. Come here a lot. Consider ourselves regulars. You used to be.
You're definitely regulars.
We'd consider you regular.
And then are we like in the computer like top customer somewhere? Like maybe not number one.
Yeah, those aren't
2.5
the adjectives
maybe?
we use to
Just
describe you guys
Let the
in private.
podcast,
but-
let the podcast play out. I know, Jeff. Both of us lived in Portsmouth. You actually lived in Portsmouth while they opened.
Correct.
And
Yep.
you just recently moved away. But
And the oft-mentioned Whitey, that guy that's never on the show, he only lives right next door, and so he's the one
right
that
behind
us.
dragged me in. So.
perfect. So yeah, I just want to dive right in. I want to know everything. So how do we begin? I know both of you guys went to UNH. Are you both from the area originally?
We're from the Northeast
Okay.
originally. I grew up in Connecticut.
Yep.
And then, they actually put Dagan and I in the same room freshman year randomly.
Jeez.
So it
So
was.
complete randomness.
Complete
You guys
randomness, no choice whatsoever.
You guys were like preparing to hate each other and arguing over who would bring the microwave and
Well, I was
stuff.
nervous. We had one more roommate also, but I got the roommate list, and I see Dagan Migirditch from Slingerlands, New York, and I just didn't know what to expect.
Slingerlands. Where's that around?
Slingerlands is right outside of Albany, New York.
Okay, nice.
So we were out-of-staters going to UNH. And, yeah, I mean, we got lucky. Dane was the first person in the dorm room, which was unfortunate for me because we had a forced triple, which was, a
what
room
that's like.
intended for two people.
Yeah.
And there was a loft bunk, which was like the holy grail of a pretty crappy situation. And he got there first and managed to start the relationship off on the wrong foot. But we managed to make it up pretty quickly. Fast friends all throughout college. We actually lived together throughout the entire 4 years.
Jeez. What did you guys bond on? Just like similar like music styles, or just anything, or like what clicks with you guys? Like, okay, this guy's will be okay for the next 4 years.
Well, a bunch of things. We had similar, sense of humor. I wouldn't say music right away. Dagan was a little more into Dave Matthews than I was, but
Wait, so
Who
it's
wasn't?
either
Okay.
it's either you're not into it or it's a lot more into. Dave Matthews.
Yeah, it's like you have the number of concerts you've been to written down, and then you immediately burn that as soon as you got some self-respect.
Yeah, making doilies out of your tickets of your past concerts.
Totally.
Yeah. Cool.
What were you guys drinking back in college, beer wise? You guys Keystone boys? You guys
Shamefully,
PBR?
yes.
Like what?
I'd say majority was PBR. Keystone was definitely mixed in there, but heavies.
Keystone Ice when we were really broke.
Oh, yeah.
You got to get
Real
your bang
fancy.
for your buck.
Is that under $15 for ice?
I think so,
pretty good,
but at that time, $15 seemed like
No,
$100.
that was a lot. Yeah. But
Red Dog, just before they went out of business, there was some fire sales at Market Basket for like $8-9 for a 30. So
That's
we swooped
can't
on
beat
those.
that.
So.
Sitting back slinging Red Dogs, did you ever think that you guys would end up sitting here running a brewery, making beer, doing this for a living?
I know I didn't.
No. I mean, maybe that's not a good beer to have as inspiration. I'm not.
Yeah.
well, I mean, you could make a beer here called Clifford or something, and like an homage to Red Dog.
There we go.
I bet it's taken.
We might have to edit that out of the podcast just to steal that idea.
Done. Oh yeah, or just trademark it before I publish
We
it.
have a
and then
blue button somewhere. Yeah.
But we did build a bar together in our first apartment. We moved into some ramshackle dump in Dover, and it had like a basement fit for a smut film. And pretty much similar to how this thing was built, Dane did most of the heavy lifting and carpentry, and I sat around and like spat out a bazillion ideas, none of which ended up coming to fruition. But we opened our little Gretzky bar when we were 20 in Dover.
Also had a foosball table there.
Jeez. Nice.
Not the same one. Took a bit of a beating.
So obviously, you guys are drinking the non-craft. What was there anything around there at the time? I'm trying to pinpoint a time frame, but you guys don't have to.
No, this is pre.
Is this pre Portsmouth
Seven
Brewery?
Portsmouth
this is
Brewery
definitely
was around.
I was like, wait, so I was just.
Yeah,
They're not.
Is this pre harpoon? Is this pre harpoon or no?
So that was strictly budgetary reasons for not drinking the
No,
craft.
for sure. But I mean, I just as far as we're talking, maybe White Birch was around at the time.
Yep. I think a decent exposure in Dover was La Festa. La Festa had they had Rogan, they had Harpoon.
They still have that guy on.
They
still have
do.
Tuckerman's
Very
Pale. They
committed.
still have the solid beers that you remember with a good garlic knot, for sure.
Yeah, they had Dogfish Head. They had somebody knows.
Yep.
They had,
Yep.
They had
But I think our real exposure to beer the way that we attempt to brew beer was the two of us both studied abroad junior year. And I went to the Czech Republic, Dane went to Denmark. And when you have a Pilsner like the one we're drinking right now, it sort of harkens back to what they were brewing over there. And getting that experience as a 19-year-old, crisp, clean, beautiful beer that's not just being poured through a funnel and into your liver. I think that was definitely a bonding experience. And then we actually kicked it around and traveled around quite a bit during that period of time and drank a lot of really, really good beer.
That's interesting. You say, the Czech Republic and Denmark, like those are not countries that come up when you talk to people about, going overseas and getting a beer experience. Usually it's, the Belgiums or the Germanys or, even, England or something like that. It's interesting. Not that, they don't have beer over there. It's just not ones that I would have ever expected you said. When you said overseas, I was thinking immediately, Germany or Belgium or something like that. So that's interesting. Yeah.
I think it's more of the drinking culture that we kind of gravitated towards. It was that like you said, it's not just something down a funnel just, to get drunk like we were back in college before we left, but it was more of an experience like this, the four of us sitting around a table, having a pint or four, and being able to just casually drink together. And it really just kind of set us up in a different mindset for, what we wanted to do when we figured we wanted to do this.
And so I'd hate to jump ahead, but taking that trip, did that kind of set the stake in the ground as like, I love like lighter Kolsch's, Pilsners? Was that like your aha? I mean, it was your revelation for better beer, but is that kind of what set you out on when you came back to do Liar's Bench? It's like harking back to those days in Denmark and Czech Republic?
I would say it plays into it,
okay.
But most of the inspiration for these sessionable beers, still full of flavor, are for me it's from the two places I worked prior to coming back back east. It was Magnolia in San Francisco, true English style brewery.
England for you, Jeff.
There it is.
There's one.
And then Trumer Brauerei, where we just made a Pilsner day in and day out. And people asked if we got bored of making Pilsner every day. And kind of, yeah, but after a long shift, there's nothing I'd rather sit down to than a crisp, clean Pilsner.
Yeah.
So it's that simplicity really set the stage. And you can see a lot of nice beauty in the simplicity of it.
So you went West Coast. Where'd you go?
I stuck around here.
Stuck around?
Yeah,
what'd you do?
after UNH, I came to Portsmouth. I was a valet for a local restaurant on the water until they learned that I couldn't drive stick, and they moved me to being a busboy. I learned how to bullshit pretty quickly in an interview. I was pretty desperate for a job.
Yep.
But climbed the ranks in Portsmouth, doing everything from bussing tables, washing dishes, to eventually I landed and was the bar manager at Jumpin' Jay's Fish Cafe, opened the Franklin Oyster House as the general manager with Matt Lewis, and then that all preceded Dane and I looping back in together and deciding to do something here.
You just name dropped Matt Lewis, and I'm like, we can go for probably another days on that guy. But how is it working with, because at the time, were you even bussing, were you picking up some culinary stuff and then just happened upon hanging out with Matt Lewis and working for him and then getting under the umbrella that is who?
Jay McSherry,
Jay
that
McSherry,
whole
yeah.
that whole family tree.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome
I mean,
family
Matt is an enormous influence on me. You rarely find chefs with the type of integrity that he has, not just in terms of how he treats the product, where he sources it from, his knowledge. It's also just his commitment. I mean, that dude grinds. He works from sun up to sundown. He doesn't always do it with a smile on his face, which I am drawn to that too, because it's really the people who can still make it through even when like they don't have that momentary enthusiasm,
right.
But overall keep a bigger picture in mind, and just to get to work with a guy like that for as long as I did was really inspiring. Not to mention, I think we're all lucky at this particular time in the culinary and in the beer scene that there's a lot of interest and there's a lot of information, so you can just having access to that firsthand and then being able to bolster it by podcasts like this or going online and finding some of the resources there. It really fostered that whole spirit in me.
And also being in the industry is not that there's just an abundance of information. There's actual camaraderie in the industry. I don't know if it's
100%.
the same is it the same in the culinary industry?
I think it's a little more competitive than beer from what I've
I feel
experienced.
so as well, but I mean that's all that I see on TV, like with the weird ass competition shows. But it's obviously in the beer scene it shines a little brighter, but so it's a little more competitive in the culinary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, really, going to Magnolia and just hearing some of the stories that Dane has from San Francisco is the first time that I saw that. Yeah, there's competition in the culinary world. It's not always cutthroat, but the brewery world is almost on the flip side. It's like everybody's buddies.
Yeah, it's like almost trying to fight what is big restaurant in culinary world, but you're all trying to be comrades and fighting big beer. It's a different scene.
To sort of dig into the camaraderie aspect, is it a good thing that the beer industry is that close and friendly? Is that good, or should there be a little bit more cutthroatness in it to, I don't know, encourage more development? Like, I don't know, is it good that everybody's super friendly like that? I guess is my question.
I think it's the best that everyone's super friendly like that, and there is a point of cutthroatness, and it's just not on our scale. I would say these regional breweries battling it out, vying for tap lines in towns they don't, they're not. That's when it gets a little bit more of a competitive edge. But as far as how open everyone is in sharing knowledge and kind of rooting each other on, I think that's the best, because then, if us and Great Rhythm absolutely hated each other and we didn't share anything, we're stunted as far as our growth is concerned in terms of our knowledge. Also, in terms of beer tourism, if we don't get better as brewers, our beer's not getting better. People don't want to come here and drink our beer.
Right.
So both of us fail.
There's a reason why I didn't build a wall between you and Great Rhythm and the train.
That would really mess up the train schedule, man. I mean, we do have the perfect metaphor for being rivals. We are literally across the tracks from one another. But
the West Side Story situation, I'm into it. So you went out west with an aspiration to brew, or just
no, not at all.
Just wanted to escape New England
to teach.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I finished UNH. Went, I was phys ed teacher, and I went out hoping for a teaching gig. Really hard time finding a teaching gig. I ended up in a group home for emotionally disturbed teenagers.
So you needed to drink your sorrows away.
So I was at the
nothing
nearest,
a Pilsner can't fix. I guess maybe a little stronger, but
so I went to the nearest brew pub, which was Magnolia. Ended up sitting across the table, much like this one right now, at Magnolia. to the head brewer there, and we hit it off. He invited me down for a day, and I couldn't get enough of it. Awesome. I started calling out of work to volunteer day in and day out, and that led me to a paid gig across the bay at Trumer Brauerei, where we did make just Pilsner every day. And that was awesome. I say I go to the Trumer School of Brewing because it was this, semi-automated 50-barrel brew house where we were turning out, 20, 35,000 barrels a year. But we got our hands on everything from, start in the cellars, then you go to the filtration, you go to the packaging in the brew house, and then we rotate. So learning a lot there. They had a lot of the fun toys. They were part of a bigger corporation, so they had some deeper pockets than most. And
nice.
So I got to learn on some cool things. And then that led me back to Magnolia when they expanded. Became lead brewer there. And then short whiles after, Dagan called me asking, hey.
What are you doing, bud?
What's up? I think you were in the car like 3 weeks later after that, packed up and ready to go?
So packed up and came back here, worked for Smutty Nose, quick stint on the bottling line for Stoneface while we were in our last stages opening, and then we opened.
And then smash cut to Memorial Day 2015?
2016, but yeah.
2016,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. Okay, so
we're
almost two. Yeah. Oh, my God. So you opened here. Did you have just tasters when you opened? Yeah. Okay, how long did that last? Because I know for those listening, New Hampshire's
November.
Tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, November.
You only had 4 taps then, 4 tap lines pour.
Started with 4. We moved to 6 before we started doing full pours, but yeah, we started with 4, and then, we knew we were going to make a mad dash to being able to serve in the glassware we wanted and not where we're restricted to.
You guys made a quick jump from, and there's a lot of breweries that, it's no fault of their own that aren't there yet or can't get there, but it was nice to see you guys go from like tasters where you're obviously, it's nice to have a taste of a Pilsner, but it's way better to have 10 or 13 ounces of one as well.
Absolutely. That's how beer's meant to be drank.
Yeah. And I'm sure all brewers also want that too, even if they can't right now. Like I know Great Rhythm is trying to find a way to do that. Yep. They can't get that going right now, but
no brewery in New Hampshire would only serve tasters if they had to.
Yeah.
Now, I do think we had a different model than some other people who are opening up, where you can choose the production path or you can choose the pub path.
Right. Yep.
And we, especially considering the way that Dane brews and how many different styles that we rotate through, we wanted to be more of that local watering hole where you're not only getting educated about beer because you're drinking so many different types, but you're going to meet your friends. There's a style for everybody. It's a place to hang out and have a few beers.
So obviously you had the the food on the road map so you could get to those big pours. As far as the culinary offerings that you have, was that sort of a plan ahead, or did you kind of fall into the whole sausages go really well with beer kind of an idea? Was that something you've been developing?
We knew we wanted to keep it simple. We knew we wanted to stylistically match the beer. We didn't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. But we also had a good opportunity. From working with Matt Lewis, I met a bunch of people in the restaurant world, and we get all of our sausages. We get the protein in. They get ground and cased specifically for us. We can change them to the season. We can curate a simple but an intriguing board of food that's not going to overwhelm people, but not going to underwhelm them either.
Right. It's. I was gonna say when you said sausages, I'm like, they might be just sausages. No, I know you're not downplaying them, but I'm like, it is awesome. We
got to have a good cop, bad cop in here, so I'm cool with that.
I'm usually the angry old man that asks the different questions,
and I'm the one that hates New England IPAs. So I guess we differ in that, or that's where we flop. But so you guys opened up here. What was the climate like at that point? I know Portsmouth is kind of it's where craft beer started, obviously, since.
In New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire. Okay, right, yeah. Well, Frank Jones. I wouldn't call it crap. Either way, I'm not going to diss Frank Jones. We're across the street from
Never.
him.
His ghost will hear, and then we'll be haunted.
Jesus, he's here. All of a sudden, the table starts shaking. But so you guys came out here when Portsmouth had a good amount of breweries. What made you pick this spot? Was it just the West End starting to pick up? What made you guys pick this awesome place?
One of the funny things about the spot that we're in, so for those listeners who aren't clairvoyant and know everything, we are in an old plumbing supply warehouse, and it was actually the first place we looked at when we were looking for a spot.
Awesome.
It was not necessarily love at first sight, but I think we both saw something in it. and its location's perfect. It's in a neighborhood. You know, when we first were shopping around, Dane and I were again living together, like literally across the street, in like a 4-bedroom multi-person apartment.
Yeah.
So being in a neighborhood where people like us were living and would be able to come out and drink was definitely a draw for us.
You get a little more street cred being in a place like this than if you were in some sort of purpose-built, fancy little building. I know there's some guys, your size, they start up and you go in and you're like, wow, there's not like, peeling paint and there's like matching chairs and all that kind of stuff. And you immediately wonder like, I don't know if I want to drink here, but this seems to be you get a little more street cred when you open up a place like this.
Yeah, partly out of necessity too.
Yeah, kind of piecemealed it together, but with an eye.
I guess it's that much more effort you could put into the beer, which is really what matters.
Precisely.
So when planning this place, obviously you had a bunch of experience in production brewing. Did you seek any advice or any help from anybody when now this is going to be your place? You're going to have the culinary stuff on point. You got to have the beer on point. But how did you guys how did you start planning your own brewery? How does one do that? I know we only have a couple minutes, but I know you can go on forever. Like, here's everything.
Dick Cantwell wrote a really good book about that. No, honestly, it's that very thing. It kind of goes back to the question about the camaraderie in the brewing industry. But it's... And also what Dagan said earlier about all the resources out there. We're in a very fortunate time for being able to learn a lot of things quickly. So, a lot of reading, a lot of just learning by doing, learning over the years in the production brewery. I was in a brew pub at Magnolia also, so knowing what worked, what didn't work, what I liked, what fit my style, what didn't, and kind of bringing all that together. Fortunately, the brewers around here are fantastic also. I just remember the first brew day, the first 3, 4, 5, 6 brew days, we had a crowd of brewers back there bringing growlers, bringing cans,
awesome.
All with their eyes on everything. What about this? What about this? Why are you doing it this way? And it was just a complete,
Your heat exchangers on backwards.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Chuck.
Oh, Chuck.
Look backwards.
And yet you collaborated with that son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
And, don't trust the little stickers that say in, out all the time. They might put them on wrong.
Is this supposed to be plugged in? You're like, this random cord and goes wherever.
Well, and I think we're both fortunate in that we have sort of diverse experiences, but within the same umbrella. Like, Dane, from working hands-on at Magnolia, knew how to construct a brew house that fit in the space that we have.
Yes.
And, my experience with restaurants, I kind of had a leg up in just even having an inventory list of things that we're going to need. Not necessarily one that I wrote, but one that I was able to grab from someone who had done it before I did. Right. The more resources you have, obviously, the more prepared you're going to be. But then at the end of the day, too, it's just like jump into the deep end and see if you drown or not. Keep treading water, man.
And and I don't know if perception of craft brewers from a craft beer drinker's perspective is false, but it seems like you have the ability, at least in this time. I don't know how it's going to be in however many years, but you have the time to figure stuff out, for lack of better words, because everyone's so excited to come to a craft brewery that you still kind of have that time to open. See how people react to things, or while you're still kind of figuring stuff out for yourself, and you're still constantly,
100%.
Going through its evolution.
You have a long leash at this particular time.
Exactly. Yeah, I keep saying it like now.
Well, yeah, I mean, we might be at the crest of the wave.
If you listen to this, maybe next 2 years, who knows?
I mean, more depressing conversations.
No, that's later. It's later.
So, irrespective of just the technical aspect of opening up, New Hampshire, as much as we're a live free or die state, we are notoriously difficult on, in my opinion, the alcohol industry. Sure. With the earliest last call in the country and all that kind of stuff. What was sort of the biggest obstacle you guys ran across that you weren't even expecting? Like, was it licensure? Was it is there something that you thought would be 5 minutes and derailed the process or something like that?
Don't just say New Hampshire's the problem, because I bet we'll get that everywhere.
I wouldn't even say it was New Hampshire.
All right, first person. No, I'm kidding.
I think we might be on agreement with it. It was more local than that.
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry if you're listening, but no, it locally, Portsmouth, is a notoriously a tough town to open things,
Sure.
especially breweries. So we felt that brunt of that for sure. We weren't, thankfully we weren't the first, so we didn't have to knock down those walls. Earth Eagle, also shout out to you. Thank you for doing that. But they don't have many breweries in town.
Right.
So they're still getting, the feel of what a brewery is and how it functions, and mechanically what needs to be installed, and so it did cause some delays though.
And it's like a Gregorian knot of all these antiquated laws and procedure stuff where you can see that the market is way ahead of how the book reads according to the lawman.
Yeah.
And it's not always the fault of like the inspectors or the enforcers, because they're trying to make sense of it as well. It needs a massive overhaul because this is becoming a massive industry.
Right, when the
There's
inspector
a lot of
comes in
money.
and you're his first brewery, because all he's been expecting for the past 20 years is restaurants, you're trying to guide him, but then again, he's the inspector, so what are you doing?
Yeah.
But also, I mean, going back to the culinary world, especially living in Portsmouth for combined 20 years, something like that, as we have.
Yeah, I think so.
It's crazy how many restaurants open and close, and I'm sure you've dealt with that too, as you were, valeting or at, was it Moxie?
I was at Franklin Oyster House and
Franklin
Jumbo
Oyster
Jay's.
House.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So it's just seeing all these restaurants open and close. It's tough for them. I can't imagine what it is like for a brewery, because that's such a even more niche thing. Because what is it? There's more restaurants per capita in Portsmouth.
Something
I don't
like
know
that.
if
I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, I don't know if that stat still stands, but there's still a lot. But
It's
always,
representative of what's going on. More seats than residents.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you see,
And no parking spaces.
Yes.
yeah, every time I see a restaurant open, I'm more apt to be like, well, see if that's around in a year, then I'll show up. But yeah, it's interesting. So that's interesting that there was that much of a struggle locally for a brewery. You mentioned Earth Eagle, and I bet you they had one hell of a time too.
Yeah.
Can probably continue to bang your head against the wall forever too, as if you're looking to expand or just add something that needs this new law that hasn't been created. But I need this here now. Why can't I get it here now?
But fortunately, if you bang your head long enough and your skull's thick enough, you might actually get some chips out of that wall.
On a broader governmental aspect, the NHBA is now the NHBA. I mean, it was the GSBA, and I believe that was kind of reformed around the time you were opening, kind of like getting in its early stages.
CJ came on just around when we opened.
Yeah, so
and she's done a fantastic job.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
I'm going up next week to Hobbs to talk
You
to
guys
her
are now
and
friends of the show, by
Yeah,
the way.
yeah,
Now that
welcome.
you're, you've always been friends of the show, but you have to actually be on to officially get the title.
What do we call Bandenhorn yesterday? We're
Friends of
we're the show's fans of them.
yeah, something like that. I don't know.
They don't know it's but the show's fans of them.
It's like giving yourself your own nickname, man.
Yeah.
Correct.
No,
we do
you're
that.
treading in dangerous territory.
We have a poster. It's as seen on Let's Know. But so have you seen a lot of benefit from that, or just like a lot of weight lifted off your shoulders because you have someone in Manchester or in Concord fighting the good fight?
It's honestly, it's tough to say because even if I was brewing in New Hampshire for years before, I might have had a clearer picture of what the changes were.
Yeah.
But because she came in and started organizing things so well as we became part of it,
It's almost like you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then she'll bring the issues to the meetings or something like that,
Yeah,
and
and
like,
she's-
or here's like what's going on.
Yeah, and she's great. She's on top of it. Some really good meetings lately. We had Bart Watson from the Brewers Association come in to our quarterly meeting last year, talk about the economic growth or the basic economics of the beer industry right now.
Which, as beer drinkers, probably wouldn't be fascinating. It's fascinating to us, but it's like even more invaluable to you guys too, just to see where you're at. And
100%.
hopefully, if you're listening, whoever wants to open up a brewery in New Hampshire, it should be important to you as well. Join the NHBA.
Absolutely.
Because believe it or not, there are a lot more than a few breweries that aren't part of it, and it's like whatever. I mean, personal opinions aside, it sucks that all breweries can't just form together and for that.
But this is our avenue to do that, and that's
Sure,
I think
yeah.
that's definitely been a weight off our shoulders, is knowing as business owners you have a lot on your plate. So if you have someone who's championing the things that you need,
Hell yeah.
that's invaluable.
Yep.
So, what was it like? You were presenters at the New Hampshire Craft Brewers Conference at UNH, right? Didn't you guys present a session or something like that on Or
On our
Yeah, we did a
story,
class.
essentially?
yeah,
we did a class.
you did a class. So what was that like being? Probably the newest guys on the block maybe that were presenters. Was that-
Pretty close. I don't think.
Does Cheryl count 'Cause with UNH?
Yeah, you're presenting with her.
Yeah, well, she was there, but she also presented, and they might be UNH is newer.
Newer. All right. So the second newest guys.
Besides one of the oldest universities in the country.
So yeah. So what was that like being asked to? I assume you were asked, or maybe you banged down the door, and said, "Hey, we want to tell our story."
We were
Like, is
asked.
that?
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was a cool. I didn't go to the conference, but from what I heard, it's like super successful, and it's
Yeah.
happening again, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, and for the first go around, not to just like completely bungle it, to actually get something out of it
Right,
is
exactly.
fantastic.
Hell yeah! Oh, so you guys got something out of it as well? Did you attend anything or?
No, I think we were brewing that day also.
True.
So
Yeah.
no attending.
Any good questions during your sessions, like asked of you, or what is beer?
Yeah, well,
From this-
Or were there any people that you said you
someone who
can't
just-
open a brewery? Like, did you throw anyone
I
out?
mean,
From someone who just opened a brewery, what's beer?
I think that's one thing that was definitely beneficial is you almost want to overwhelm the people who are getting ready to take this venture on so that they realize the scale of it. But we had a ton of good questions, and we had a ton of people who, we had one guy in particular who he owned a farm, and all he wanted to do was set up a one-barrel brewery so that he could start growing some of his own things to put into that brew house. And that was just fascinating to me to see. Here's a guy who doesn't really have the intention of becoming anything larger than a hobby, but he's still willing to take up the cause, put the time in. I mean, maybe it's part because he's a farmer and those people work tirelessly.
Yeah,
But
they just need something to do to fill the extra hour of their day.
Yeah. Because you do see people in this industry who are chasing dollars and cents, who know it's big money and know that they've got deep pockets and they can go around the country and cherry pick some people and bring them in and potentially make a lot of coin off it. And personally, passion is really what is going to drive this industry as well as talent. And if you have the combination of the two, it's my hope that there's a place for you.
Yeah, we sort of almost saw it in the mid 2000s, like the mid 2000s, 2010, of breweries thinking about opening up because they saw some sort of bubble start or some sort of trend happening, and they were in it for the money. Couldn't really tell if the brewer was in on it, or there's no good relationship between the brewer and the businessman. So shout out to Blue Lobster. But we still see it time and time again where you have to question, are they in it for this? Because no one starts a place like this damn place and it's like, oh, it's gonna be a moneymaker. There's passion behind it, right? So did you see anybody that was in it just kind of capitalize off the boom that they saw at this UNH thing, or and name names? Yeah, name names too.
I wouldn't say so. I think
Well, that's good. I mean, because obviously,
yeah,
because you spend money to get into the thing, obviously, but it's still. I know how. I mean, just by being part of the brewing scene, as you see a lot of are they really in it for the beer, or are they trying to make?
There are
a
definitely
buck?
a few non-brewers there, more business side of things.
Yep.
Looking at it maybe to see if it was a smart investment for them.
Yep.
But other than that, I would say it was the people that were going to be building the bar tops themselves to open their own spot.
So I guess the question that I've sort of wanted to ask is appropriate time now around the status of the industry right now. We've obviously locally there's been some news, some sales happening nationally. We see some big names. Selling out, using my air quotes, to use the words that the beer geeks would use. They're
words.
How dare
what do
you?
you?
I said no swearing. I said swearing's okay, but that word.
Yeah,
no.
but so where do you guys see the industry? Is this the crest? I think you said the crest a minute ago. Are we the bubble bursting? Is it going to get twice as big?
Wait, how big do you want to take it?
What's your opinion
Here,
on the let's say locally and at a large scale? Where do you see the industry?
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying right now, right? I mean, you're at potentially the peak of something. Now, my personal belief is we're at a crest, but the craft beer movement has set its roots deep enough that, much like the way the food industry moved, where it retracted back and it got more focused on local, on what do you do in your area and how do you do that well, and why is that representative of the people here, and why do they respond to that? All those things, I think, aren't going anywhere, because, in fact, they were what sort of started all this stuff way back in the day, all that regionalism. But it does seem that either you're really small or you're really big.
Right.
And if you're caught somewhere in the middle, it's literally a rock and a hard place.
Which I think is what we've said several times now, is that the hyper local, what I've wanted to call the neighborhood brewery until there was a neighborhood brewery. I can't call it that.
Shout out
Yeah,
to
now
Joe.
you're not, and it's free branding, free advertising for it, man.
I think, and another penny in my piggy bank
Yeah, baby.
every time it's mentioned.
Keep on going for it.
I think I use the term hyper local. I think is the one I've adapted. It seems that hyper local is really
That does have a more millennial ring to it than neighborhood, too.
There's no end to where the hyper local thing is going to go, and the big are always going to be around. But yeah, like you say, the middle is definitely being squeezed out.
Oh, yeah.
Probably more from the bottom than from the top, though, which I think is not what a lot of people expected.
It's very interesting to see, especially in this state. I know you didn't ask me the question, but I'm hopping in.
You can answer anything you want.
It's super interesting to me seeing the scene grow from Portsmouth Brewery to whatever the latest brewery is now. How I would not have expected that Smutty Nose to be like one of the first to go, because we've had a lot of breweries open that are still open that really we've talked about a bunch, but no didn't name names.
We don't mention names.
Really shouldn't be, for either lack of talent, lack of quality of beer, vision. But it's amazing how that mid-level, above hyper-local brewery can be on the firing line. It's crazy, but it's interesting to see where this bubble or the crest of this mountain is going, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the elephant in the room is Smutty Nose. It's a company that didn't really do anything wrong.
Nope.
It just, the timing didn't work out for them. They started building up when a lot of other people were entering the market.
Yeah, and we're starting to see a thing now. I mean, in the same week, it was Green Flash pulled from 38 states, and there's another one that Pabst laid some people off. So I mean, there's a shift happening, whether it is to recoup costs and figure out a different strategy than what the bigger guys. I put Green Flash in the bigger guys because they were 50 states.
Oh
so
yeah,
man.
man.
It's tough to see just how everyone's business plan looks. It's all different, but we're all trying to kind of get on the same page of let's just survive. Let's figure this out, and some people just doesn't work out.
You mentioned Green Flash pulling out. New Glarus did the same thing, a few years back, and now they're, I believe, only in their home state, Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin.
Yep.
Yeah. Damn it, that's a shame.
Can
we get them in New Hampshire?
Exactly.
Whoever's listening,
every single year. They've pulled out because they were so shallow everywhere, and now they've focused so much on Wisconsin, and they're now growing every single year. So they say it's the best thing they ever decided to do,
just to bring it back. And,
and just focus on themselves.
Well, I think that sort of proves the local-ish point is that there's probably still many untapped customers, within driving distance of the brewery, that you don't need to try to span the country, because that's obviously a huge expense. So
I was going to bring up.
Oh, go ahead. Bring up.
Wait, no, wait.
No.
Topic on 3. No, I'm kidding.
No, you go.
You guys could actually have done that. We would call jinx and ended this podcast,
just
man.
shut the lights off.
We're not that good.
No, I want to bring it right back up to the greatest festival of all time besides Oktoberfest, Great American Beer Festival.
Oh yeah, I thought you were saying Bockfest.
I thought he was going.
I was like, that's a little bit of hyperbole, but I do appreciate the.
I thought he was going Bockfest too.
Wait a minute. Wait till I say the greatest over Oktoberfest. Damn it, I'm so pissed. I missed that. And all three of you would have jinxed me, so that would have been the whole thing. Now, I want to talk about Great American Beer Festival because you guys entered it this past year, and I want to know that experience. What's it like? How does the submission work? Do you just I want to submit some beers, and they're like, cool. How does the process work to?
They don't just say cool. They say also, can you send $150 per beer, please?
On top of the beer.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
So you have to ship it and then pay $150 per style you enter.
So what did you guys enter?
It's something like $150. We did John Grady Kolsch. Made it to the medal round. So I'm pretty.
Wait, so you guys find that out?
Yeah. They give you.
Hell
They send you every single judge's notes.
Oh, awesome.
Yep. Which was pretty. It was funny. Because
Go say it. Just say it. Yeah.
So everyone has their own taste buds, right? They have their own taste. They like things. They don't like things. But it's amazing how these professional judges, just like everybody, can taste different things in the same beer. We did Shy Baby, our ruby colored grisette. And it was under the specialty saison category, and under that category, you had to kind of explain why it's in specialty and not just the classic saison. So he's includes chocolate malt, deep red color, atypical of a saison, and so some people are like strong coffee flavor. I'm like, all right. Some people are like no chocolate, no roast, nothing at all, overcarbonated, flat. And it's just like these back and forth.
What do you what do you send them to taste? Is it bottles?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We send bottles.
Okay.
You can send cans. You can send,
okay.
yeah. They just require essentially a certain volume.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was funny to get some of those responses back. Some people and some judges loved one style. Some judges were like, "This couldn't be further from the style." You're like, all right.
And that only speaks to the judging too, because there's only 100 some judges for however many 3,000 beers were being judged. But what's even crazier on that level too is how some of the same beers end up in the top 3 or even win.
Yeah.
Every year. But how? Like I don't know if it shows like just how subjective it is. It's so crazy just seeing the same beer over and over. But but when you get notes like that, that almost confuses me even more. Where they're so polar opposite.
Yep. I also think specialty saison is a bad example because those judges might be thinking different things of what that category means.
Yep.
It is such a broad category.
Yeah.
Saison in general is a broad category, but specialty saison really opens it up.
Yeah.
So we're probably not going to throw any hats in that ring next year, just because it felt like it was just too much.
Always John Grady though next year.
John
This
Grady.
year?
Oh yeah, we're gonna keep
John
throwing
Grady.
that one out there.
Yep.
But the festival itself is a freaking blast. We ran into each other out there.
Awesome. We were first we ran into each other at beer. I want to say Beer Garden, but it's not.
That shows you how much fun it
I
was.
also want to say Spiegelau, but it's not that either.
2-minute Pilsners. Their Pilsner.
It was the one with the thing upstairs with the stuff downstairs.
They were pouring the beer, and there were a bunch of people there.
There was not Spangelang. That's another brewery there.
Beer Goss. Beer
I wasn't invited this year, so all right.
Every time
By who? The festival
No,
itself?
so I've been twice before,
Yeah.
and him and I have talked about it a few times that
We're
we're
going
going to
this
go.
year.
We're going this year.
We're going this year as the
podcast.
Awesome.
But we did a show where he's like, let's do a show to talk about like how to prepare for a beer festival, specifically GABF. And then at the end of the podcast, he was like, "Oh, by the way, I get on a plane tomorrow. I'm going to Denver." And I was like, I hate you.
Surprise for me.
I hate you with all of my being.
It's not my fault. But yeah, so it was cool to run into you guys. But yeah, it was my first time at the fest. Was it your first times at the fest?
Not mine.
So
I've been a few times.
So you knew the beast
Yeah.
that was?
I mean, and it's more of a beast every year.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot.
If you had gone, 6 years ago, it's not that kind of beast.
I love how everyone's pissed their cell phones don't work. In a place with a billion people.
I just wish you didn't drain the battery so fast.
I know, right? Yeah. It's true.
My experience was too, and I went in 6 years ago, 2011 and 2012. That the thing that excited me more was all the events that the breweries in the greater Denver area did, more so than the festival.
Oh, absolutely.
The festival's just like, let's just pack a bunch of people in a room. It was actually the first beer festival I ever went to. Was GABF 2011. I'm like,
That's quite the introduction.
Oh yeah, I didn't. I swear to God, for the first half an hour, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I was like alone too. So yeah, it was weird.
That's how beerfest.com makes you think all their beer fests are. But
So it was, I was really excited by all the stuff in the area they did. So that's what I always tell people to do. Like, go to one session just to do it, and then go hang out at every other brewery you can find in the area.
Yeah, there's so much going on. And I think you're spot on. You go see the festival. There's enough time during the session to hit a ton of spots. By like the 200th 1 ounce pour, you're already your palate's a little burnt
you're
out.
Done. You're done. Just wait for the next Utopia bell and then go over and get some
Yeah.
and come back. Yeah.
And then on Saturday after they've announced the winners, you just have mass people running to what was the gold medal one in this category, now.
But that went on a long time. Like, they were reading the awards up until it started. Then they had a lot more awards to win. But I love how they kept the IPAs till the end to be like, you assholes are staying.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to let you go first.
We know.
Category 9 is going to be 90th red because of whatever. Let's talk about beer. Can I trouble you for
Oh,
a
absolutely.
beer?
Yeah, man.
You doing? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we don't.
Can I have a porter, please?
Porter?
Yeah, absolutely.
People like listening to the ambiance. That is. Oh, I'll do.
Yeah, we can make a lot of background noise
Could do
too.
an
And
amen.
yeah.
Yeah.
I assume this is like the commercial break during.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, we can. So
This is brought to you by.
speaking of
Blue Apron, I don't know.
speaking of IPAs, though, so what do you guys feel?
Talk.
What do you?
Yeah, baby.
I want to know your opinion on this New England IPA glass of orange juice thing.
Now
that's-
temper yourself, Dane.
Okay, so I saw something very funny. You guys know this? Oh God, Museum of Natural Art. I forget who does it, but it's like the you take a portrait of yourself and it matches you.
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
like
Yep.
a famous painting portrait. Fieldwork out of Berkeley, California, just posted their match of. They took a picture of their can of pulp, and it was a famous painting of a glass of orange juice, I guess, with a slice in it. They probably doctored it, but they did a really good job, and it really made me chuckle.
It's awesome. I
Other than that, I think that's the best thing to come out of New England IPAs is that picture.
Attaboy. So and it's great. I mean, your first IPA Topanga, and it's interesting. I don't know if you get the same feedback, but it's nice to have an IPA, whereas it's not. Oh, thanks. It's not New England. You can't see through it, but you can see that there's beer in there. It's not orange,
There's
but
light coming
Do
through
you get the like? Oh, weird. This doesn't look like the other ones I waited in line for.
One person actually, so giving tours on Saturdays or whatever, brought down samples of Topanga that first go round, and someone's like, I thought we were getting the IPA. It's like, this is the IPA.
Oh my God.
But it's so clear. It's like, oh, man.
That's when you pull out the BJCP book and be like, let's see what we get here.
That's why it's refreshing to taste hops sometimes.
Yeah,
But-
exactly.
Oh,
So,
man.
yeah. I'm with you on this one, Brian.
I'm there too.
No, I know. But well, I guess do you guys obviously ignore trends, try to set your own here. Do you have people that are like, you should brew a New England IPA? I mean, you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so they still like kind of suggest, because even when you have an IPA on, like the Young Upstart, Rad, like they still want the one that they're used to.
Absolutely.
So it's weird that
and,
they-
sometimes we don't have an IPA on. We just
Right.
have a pale,
Yeah.
or a hoppy saison or something. Try to have something hoppy for the vast majority of the people in the world these days.
Do you
Also
still-
because hops are delicious.
Yeah.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're not anti-hops
No,
by
no.
any
No,
stretch
no,
of the
no.
imagination. But sometimes it just doesn't happen on our board because of the way things turn over, because of
yeah.
our capacity in the back.
You can come one week, see 6, come
Yeah.
back next week, see different 6. Like, how long was I away?
Which-
and then Jeff texts me, "Thanks for inviting me."
That's I always text that.
Always.
Seems like that's one of your saved texts now, given the disinvite from GAB.
Yeah, it
no
is.
good. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
no
thanks for the invite. I
the odd
comment
couple
on
here.
social media that more than anything. But
But you've got a good-looking Bitmoji.
I do. Thank you. I mean, I know we've talked a lot too about how, obviously against the breweries that have, would you want my IPA or my other IPA or my other IPA? We like the variety, and so that's I think one of the biggest things that drew us to here, in my opinion, at least drew me in, is that I like that I can come in here and get probably 2 styles that are not super common, maybe. I don't see a lot of grisettes. I'm looking at the tap list right now. I don't see a lot of grisettes on tap in a lot of places. And, the rest of it, you might see some of those. But I like the variety.
The best part about this place, Earth Eagle, Neighborhood, Portsmouth Brewery, if you get a flight of beer, they all look different. Or maybe 2 are similar.
they
whatever.
all are different. Let's start there. They all are different.
But you're looking at a different color palette for all 6, however many is in the palette. I was recently at one of the newest breweries in the state, and they gave me a palette of beer, and I'm like, I don't think I asked for 6 of the same beer. I would have just asked for a pint, but every beer looked identical, and they all tasted identical.
So is it? I would assume it's easier to brew a lot of the very similar beer, like style-wise, or is it harder for you guys to keep 6 different styles on? Would it be easier if you put on 4 IPAs and 2 something else's, or does it not really matter?
No, I mean, easier in what regard?
I guess just from a buying your ingredients, planning your planning. Would it be easier if you guys had 6 IPAs on tap versus 6 different
I
styles?
mean, you could keep your yeast going a little bit longer. I know a lot of people are just buying fresh pitch every time anyway, but I like to reuse pitches and keep it going for as long as it's healthy. And that makes scheduling slightly difficult with the amount of varieties we have to try to get our money's worth on a 10-barrel pitch of Pilsner from Denver. You want to make that go a couple rounds. But also, if it doesn't fit into the schedule, there's no reason to hold on to it because you have other things that you want to make. Also, I want to make a lot of things. I've got a desire. I'm always tasting things out of the bright tank because I'm tired of what's on taps. And I'm like, I just drink this
Sell
beer.
this one faster, man.
Because I want this to come on now. So it's more of a desire, but just also a sincere attempt to keep the board like balanced. You guys mentioned you like the variety. I like the variety too.
Solid ABV, average.
Yep.
Some lower than others, which is good. The Grisette, like you basically introduced the Grisette to New Hampshire. Now you see like Dave Yarrington,
delicious
Grisette.
Grisette.
So we're in a Grisette. Like it's good.
They're
good time to
coming,
be a
man.
Grisette fan. Oh yeah.
I'm reminded of
all my Grisette fans out there. Say ho.
I heard this story about Radiohead touring with Alanis Morissette. You're going to have to bear with me here. This will come full circle at some point. So Radiohead in their first days was touring with Alanis Morissette, and her band for the entirety of this 6-month tour was expected to play the same set every single night. Multi-date, like every week. And they said the band members were going insane by the end of it. And so, just for the health of my friend and business partner, I'm glad that you've taken up the diversity of the beer board rather than me coming in and you having like some Einstein hair and then the shark eyes.
I mean, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I'd like it to happen less than we could have.
I want to toss a brewery out there, and I don't do this with many people, but I'm getting a feel. Every time I walk in, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of this place, and the tap list reminds me of this tap list, and I'm like, is there any inspiration from Oxbow here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously Saisons are fantastic in general, and then having these Saisons and Grisettes, I'm like, man, I wish... Not if I'm here, I wish I was at Oxbow always, but...
Yep, that's why.
Yeah, do you like Oxbow?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Oxbow is by far my favorite brewery.
Hell yeah, we did
on
it.
the planet.
I'll never play that game again.
You nailed
but
it. I have the most respect for those guys. I think their beer is phenomenal. They're getting so many great accolades now. Also, well deserved. They've worked hard for it, and I really think I don't know if they timed it right or if they paved their way to it. But the craft beer world right now, their taste buds are very in tune with what Oxbow is making.
Yeah.
But Oxbow hasn't changed a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Since they're year
they've
6
been standing
now.
here with their arms open for years.
Yep. And then
now
just
people are starting
Those
to
getting
big
better
owl
and better
wings
and better.
outstretched.
get over here. Yeah.
Barrel of beer in its claws.
God bless. Oh man.
So-
Yeah, that's cool.
Just
Yeah,
was
you
at a
nailed
beer
it.
dinner for them
Once
last
again.
night over at the Black Birch.
No, I went to one 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, they've
Oh,
done now
God,
6 in a row.
Damn it, so good. And speaking of Birch, have you guys? So let's go back to food real quick. You've done a lot of pop-ups here.
Yeah.
Birch was one of the first, or one of them.
The first.
The first, okay. So you guys do a bunch of pop-ups here, even though you have your own food. Where do you just places you like? You invite to have some small bites here and pair with food.
Friends, places that we feel like put out good product. This is a small community, so a lot of people, regardless of whether you're in the beer world or whether you're in the restaurant world, you end up hanging out and palling around with the same people, and there's a lot of amazing people for such a small town.
Yep.
I'm
I'm so mad I missed the umami one.
Oh, he'll probably do another one. He's done too. I mean, he comes,
First of all,
shows up
Savory
here.
Bastard on Instagram. Savory Bastard on Instagram is his account, and it's just like, I gotta go to umami now.
Oh yeah.
No, whenever he comes in, he puts out such delicious food.
Yeah.
Pop-ups are so much fun for us. We have such a limited kitchen, and then to have some true professional chefs come in and really put full use to that thing, it's impressive. Speaking of the Black Birch, they're coming back again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, February 11th.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
11th of February.
Nice.
So,
And then you've done a bunch of beer collaborations.
Yep.
Do you have one coming up?
we have a bigger group collaboration
Oh yeah, for Portsmouth Beer Week.
Yeah.
So
Talk about
the
it.
cat's out of the bag, but it's a
It's a lasagna beer, right? Charlie wanted it.
Charlie
was pushing.
Charlie did it. You finally.
He's gonna sneak in there and just lay the foundation
So for just a quick-
with a bunch of tomato paste.
Old cheesy hops, I
Sorry to
believe,
be-
is one of his pitches.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But great rhythm. Right across the tracks is kind enough to house the Seacoast Collaborative, and we're going to be making essentially like a hoppy Belgian Golden Strong. So it's going to be 6-7%. Really clean, bright hops. Nothing that is overly bitter, but light fruit forward. Really kind of play on the Belgian yeast.
Awesome.
Candy syrup, just really dry, drinkable.
Nice.
And it's basically every brewery in the Seacoast.
That's how it should be. That's how it should
Yeah,
be.
and he's brewing 2 10-barrel batches of it, so I know it's going to get around.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Nielsen's Nelson. I tipped my cap.
Oh, well, thank
to
you, sir.
It was very good. I got it at, when I was at Garrison. I was like, yes, you did it. And Nicole's the best. So
Nicole's
Yeah,
great.
she's
one of our first brewery guests, friend of the show, even some would say.
Definitely my favorite can they've ever put out.
Yeah. I wonder why. So let's talk about the biggest beer fest ever, above Oktoberfest. Some would say
Double, actually.
year's doubly as good.
The amount of people waiting in line for the
still-
bathroom at Oktoberfest will maybe be showing.
They're
up
still
here
waiting
for
outside.
Bockfest.
They're waiting outside for March 3rd. Guys, second annual Bockfest is coming in hot. Hopefully hot. It was cold as fuck.
Hopefully not cold.
was
Let's
so
start
cold
there.
last
We
year.
don't necessarily want it hot. We just don't want it sub-zero.
Right, exactly. So tell us about Bockfest, the inspiration behind it. I know because we haven't had you on the podcast before. So what's the inspiration behind Bockfest in general?
Bockfest is the celebration of the coming of spring, first and foremost, with Bocks.
Yes.
So it's big in the Midwest. The biggest one in the world, the biggest Bockfest in the world is in Cincinnati, and it is a full-on parade day.
Damn.
It's giant. Augustus Shells has a great one where they've got these people dressed up as goats with kegs strapped to their back running through the woods, and people have to go find them with their steins, and if you find them, you get to fill up your box.
That's some serious commitment, right?
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So
it's
we have
like a
some
good setting for a
aspirations
horror
here.
movie.
We're just kind of laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
Year 2.
Yeah, you're lucky to have a year 2 here. So now maybe you let some goats run free.
the parade. Will be
free them
the
wild.
parade will be year 3, right? We'll close Islington Street to a parade
Yep,
next
we'll
year.
start
Yeah,
a
well,
mini
we're
one
looking
here.
for an event manager right now,
Yeah.
so they can start getting on that.
Brian will do it.
Perfect. That's awesome.
But it conveniently coincides with Portsmouth Beer Week.
Oh, yeah.
So we try to time it for the end of Portsmouth Beer Week, the kind of culmination of it, to make a big outdoor drinking festival. We did not wish that it was -8 degrees last year. I think
Hands
it
are still like.
turned away some people.
But it also made it an event.
Oh, so good.
My favorite part was the crowd was following the cast of The Sun. So as the shadow of the parking garage descended on our parking lot, it sort of pushed everybody up against the wall. But yeah, this year we were a little more prepared.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some options for keeping yourself warm, and we've got 6 breweries from the area all coming in, all doing box.
All box.
All box.
And some are for this fest. Some are is like somebody knows bringing like their Bach.
They actually brewed their Doppelbock again, so they've been waiting for this. I know somebody knows brewed their Doppelbock for Bockfest this year.
It's and then you guys are doing a food option this time. You
Yeah.
didn't do it last year.
Yep.
So all goat stuff.
Matt
Goat
Lewis,
stuff.
all goat. He's bringing in 2 kids. He's going to break those suckers down. We're going to have 5 different options for what you can eat. As part of the VIP ticket, you get that full plate. It's factored in. It saves you a little bit of money on it. But also for a la carte, you can come in and just kind of get what you want.
Oh, yeah.
We were toying with, do we satisfy the vegetarians and have an option for them? But, this is a celebration of the goat, too. So we might as well embrace it and kill a few.
Goat's mouth, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slice it up and
Just
pass it around.
mind the teeth that will inevitably be lodged in there. And
It's a keepsake. Are you going to be bringing back the
Poker?
The poker.
Yes. I have an
For
idea
those
to
not
make
watching
it.
this, they have no idea what I mean, but I do mean
Brian's
poker.
making a
Yes.
poking.
the poker. He's not just a creep who roams around Bockfest.
I stood up and do you guys see the
Hot
poker?
poker. No, so another tradition in the Midwest is this molten hot iron poker, where you stick this iron rod into a smoldering fire, get it red hot, and then you stick it down into a half-filled stein of Bock, and it immediately froths like crazy, caramelizes the sugars, and you take a sip of it, and it's like drinking toasted marshmallows, and it's this interplay of cold still with warm foam.
People were just like nose and foam for a while, and it's like, I just wanted to do this. But then they're like, oh, wait a second.
It's freezing.
There's beer under here. Hold on.
I believe Dane lit his jacket on fire last year.
I still have wounds on my jacket from I was playing Ninja with them.
Too much Bock.
I got a video.
When it's about to freeze, you got to put it down pretty fast.
True.
I got a video I'll put in the show notes. It was you like just doing a solid one flip and then putting it into the beer. It was more like this, like precise. It was perfect.
I want to see that.
What are you guys brewing for the day? Anything special?
Same.
Recipe?
We're Waka Baka.
Waka Baka.
Yep. It was good last year. I really liked it. So we did a little tweak. We used the same yeast that we're brewing our Pilsner with now out of Inland Island, out of Denver, Colorado. Those guys are making some really, really clean, delicious yeast. So we used that this year, and I love the malty notes that it brought out. And,
awesome.
Cool. The Bockfest mugs making
bigger and better this year.
Ooh, bigger and better.
Going half liter this year.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So full liter next year, then we can hold you to that with the parade.
every year
We
gets a
have
half
not
liter
yet lost our licensing from the city of Portsmouth.
We're trying to keep it.
Yeah.
It's had a hard time getting in. They don't want to get easily thrown out.
And
Jesus.
you mentioned tickets via this VIP option. Where can people get their tickets?
So if you check out our Facebook page or our website, liarsbenchbeer.com, we have links to everything up on Eventbrite. So
Eventbrite, love it.
easy stuff.
Yeah. What else you got? I mean, I want to stay forever, but you got a bowl, which is weird.
Yeah, I mean,
Candlepin too.
You know what?
What is
bowling's
that
not
even
later.
bowling?
No,
I have to go.
no,
Bowling's not
It's
till
like
7.
the darts of
10.
bowling.
Yeah,
Don't tell
this
the
is
audience
New
what time
England.
it
This is what we do.
Which darts
here.
isn't bad either. It is what we do here. I guess you know.
That's true. Speaking of
Regionalism
where's
has
the
even moved down
dartboard,
to
by the
bowl.
way?
We don't have space for it, man.
Dartboard's
Make
been pulled
space.
down. It was in the brewery for a while, but then we had to put a tank there.
It will lodge into a fermenter. You're like, just keep
You heard Kieran.
Don't pull it out.
Sanitize the
nice
tip
pin.
before every
Yeah,
throw.
it's for this. And put it back. But yeah, I guess you mentioned liarsbenchbeer.com, but is there anything else coming up besides Bockfest? I mean, you guys are doing brew days. You got Black Birch coming back.
I would say just in general, people who are fans of beer and live in the area should look at what's going on for Portsmouth Beer Week. We're trying to do something pretty much every night of the week, both in-house and outside of our own four walls. It's an event that, having been a bar manager in this town for a while, it is an entirely different 7 days than it was when I first started here, and it is very locally focused. And
It's starting to become,
going on.
it's definitely, as of last year, it was like, okay, finally it's locally focused, where it used to be just very distributor run.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are starting to see.
And kudos to the people who
Totally
put
fine.
it on.
Totally fine. Yeah. I believe it's turned into more of like a good. I know Sean's a good friend of mine, but it should be
Friend
called
of the podcast or just
friend of the show. No, he signed my table.
He has
signed my
signed the
studio table.
We still need to get something for.
No,
guests to
they'll
sign.
come over. They'll sign it.
Yeah,
sometime.
You have to come over to his house and sign the table.
Sounds great.
Studio table. But yeah, I've been asking Sean to make it Seacoast Beer Week. But how many beer weeks can you make? A month from then is going to be New Hampshire Beer Week. So it never stops. But
everyone gets a week.
But it's good to have. It's good to have a lot of good events. I know Bad Lab's doing Stout Month and stuff like that. So it's cool that it's happening. Like there's brewers willing to put some events together and do some stuff like that. So
What are we doing for that week other than attending all this cool
That's
stuff?
it.
Okay,
We should do
And
something,
we'll do
though.
some. We'll do
do a
some
live
on the
show
spot.
somewhere.
We can do some live shows.
You guys should
and
do
stuff.
some late night
loop on this
podcasts
little
after
soundboard and
events.
just
do a little
travel-
love line
travel
here.
stuff.
A little love line.
Yeah.
Here. Well, you guys have done what? Mystery date? No, not mystery date.
We did the dating game.
Dating game. That's what I meant. Yeah, you guys played a game of mystery date in the back of the board game.
Oh yeah, we were trying
How
to
did
put
that work?
another
How
one.
did I miss that one?
It was very
you needed to
impromptu.
Oh, okay.
Gathering many local singles who are willing to put themselves out there for.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that what a bar is? Like, isn't that or a brewery does?
Yes,
Like,
but I think people are more subversive in their intentions sometimes, whereas this one was just like, I'm here and I'm vying for a spot with Niles, the bartender
Please let me
from
be into
Anjou.
it.
I think the last big event of yours I attended was the hot dog eating contest.
Yes.
and I was vanquished in
You-
my attempt. I came in like third to last.
But yeah, because you basically once you found out we had free beer, you were like, "Well, I get free beer, and if
guess
I
I'll
eat
enter.
3 hot dogs, that's
I ate
lunch
6
too."
I ate 6.
So yeah, Portsmouth Beer Week's coming up. It's the end of February and ending with March 3rd, the Bockfest.
Bockfest. People will need to end it.
We'll be
after
here.
That.
We'll be here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're already here.
Brian's already got his
fantastic.
tickets.
I didn't buy tickets yet.
Ben Watts bought tickets. I know Kathy's going to be there, so all the show.
I guess I gotta buy
friends of the
tickets.
show's
I gotta
gonna
go
be
on
there.
Eventbrite.
If you're a friend of the show, you'll be there. But you got to buy a ticket.
I'm half the show. Or a third of the show. Excuse me.
I am the
Sorry,
show.
Ben. A third of the show.
I am the
Oh,
show.
he's going to edit you out, man.
So, Dane and Dagan, I super appreciate you taking the time of your day off to have us come in here and yell at you about beer and drink beer with you. I do
We
appreciate
appreciate
it.
you guys coming.
Yeah, it
in.
was a pleasure, guys.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
do it again.
We'll do it again. Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
You guys know the website, Let's Talk.beer. Tell your friends, tell a couple friends. And Jeff, any final words before we shut this?
No, just cheers again.
Cheers again. All right, bye.